sector can leverage green technologies and sustainable practices to foster economic growth while reducing its carbon footprint and ensuring social inclusion. Very good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Of course. First and foremost, let's get to understand BBE. What is it about?
Thank you so much, Alicia. BBE is a platform for the built environment professionals. Built environment professionals, we are talking of architects, planners, those who the engineers, landscapers, and the most important people, which is our community, because we build with our community, we plan with our community. So all this we are doing it for the community. So BBE is a platform where we are saying, here we are doing this as professionals. So let's meet and dialogue on issues. We can see that the world is changing. Tshepiso is here from climate change. The environment is changing. So we need to talk on these issues. So the conference creates a platform to dialogue on such issues.
Right. I'd like for us maybe right on that point to talk about the theme of this year, facilitating Botswana's unique path to industrialization. What are we trying to derive through this conference?
As you know, when you talk of industrialization, a concept from the high income or developed countries. So where industrialization it was about moving from the agricultural sector to manufacturing. And we find ourselves here with these conditions that we are living in because of that industrialization. So we are talking of issues whereby we produce, there's a lot of production, manufacturing, that. So, the theme is all about us as Botswana, as the region. How do we define our own industrialization? And as the built environment profession, how are we facilitating that? So the theme is all about that.
Right. Tshepiso, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think what's important with the theme is it tackles one of the leading causes of climate change, right? Which is industrialization, or the way in which the world has industrialized so far, right? So what the theme is saying, we are looking at Botswana's unique approach to industrialization, and that means going into concepts like the green economy, right? So we are addressing the idea that climate action or environmental sustainability or sustainability as a whole, issues like social inclusion, are a cost to industrial development, right? And so we are looking at inclusive development, at climate resilient development as pathways or new pathways, renewed pathways to sustainable industrialization. Right.
And right on that note, Tshepiso, I'd like for you to perhaps just explain to us or let us in on how Botswana Climate Change Network what role are you going to be playing in this conference?
So the built environment is largely a sector around the buildings, human settlements, the industrial landscape, etc. And so our interests in the conversations at the conference would particularly be looking at, climate smart or climate resilient industrialization. Concepts such as eco-industrial symbiosis, as looking at case studies of that and how they can be adopted in the Botswana concept. Issues around the green economy and what role the green economy has, or the potential for green economy development in the context of industrial development in Botswana. And so we'd particularly be looking at facilitating conversations around aligning the built environment with climate smart objectives. And one of the things that we will be starting with will be a tree planting. We call it a tree growing because the idea is to grow the tree, not to leave it. We plantile fela. We'll be having a tree growing event in Peolwane Park in Block 7. And this is the second of our engagements at Peolwane Park. Is still in partnership with the Built Environment Conference. And this year we'll be looking to plant 50 to 100 trees in the park. Last year, I think we did 20.
Yes.
And the idea around that is to set an example of how, parks can be, or our city can utilize community parks as, green spaces and, centers for encouraging the thriving of biodiversity as our city grows. And so we're hoping that through that event, and the larger initiative is called Greening Urban Parks. And we're hoping to grow this initiative through the continued support of actors, Bako, the built environment sector as well, to see more greening around our city beyond Block 7 and perhaps even the CBD, in industrial centers, etc. So with that initiative, we're trying to then say with industrialization and with growth, we can facilitate the greening of our spaces as well.
Right. In a way, I'm getting a sense of how the climate change policy ties in with, BBE's mandate, yours as well at Botswana Climate Change Network. If you could just, share more on, how they tie in together.
Like Tshepiso has been saying, Botswana Climate Change and other green advocacy groups are very key in terms of the built environment professions. When you talk of talking of policies, so that very key in terms of motivating the policies, changing policies. You'd find that most of our policies so there is no element or integration here. The green practices in what we do. When we do our buildings, you'd find that in other countries, they've got even standards. So when you build, you construct a building, this building, it meets the green, that.
Standards.
Yes, green standards. When we plan, as a planner, when we do construction, how do we compensate the environment? So as we construct, we remove trees. As we build our roads, we remove trees, vegetation. How do we compensate the environment in that case? As Tshepiso has mentioned, this is a way of saying these are small steps. The green concept, the climate change concept. So it's a new concept, even though it's not new. It's something that has been there. So to us, so it's baby steps, as in what we'll be doing with Botswana Climate Change Network. So we started with small trees. I think when we started, we did 2 trees. Last year we had 20, and we are hoping to do more and more trees. And we encourage other industries. Like I was saying, Botswana Built Environment is inclusive. It talks about the profession and the people that we are building for, we are planning for, that. So we encourage all the sectors to come on board.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the relationship between the built environment and the climate sector, it's very close-knit. One, because industry and the energy sector is the leading source of greenhouse gas emissions, more Botswana, and a lot of that consumption is coming from industry, right? It's coming from the built environment as well. And so if we're going to bring down our carbon emissions or our larger footprint, environmental footprint, as we advocate for, then definitely conversation with the built environment is very important. The other thing is how we build also affects how resilient we are to climate change. I think we saw that very perfectly last month, Kadi, the floods that happened, especially particularly in how we experienced the floods, mo Gaborone, and you know, pula etlana entse ena, but sometimes the impacts of high rainfall are exacerbated by how we build or how we manage our infrastructure. And so climate resilient infrastructure then becomes also an important part of the conversation, whether it's in industry or it's in you know, human settlements as well. We consider how we build in a resilient way, and we have in mind, you know, that we are becoming more and more vulnerable to the changing climate. So we need to, you know, align our urban planning with climate risk projections up till the end of the century.
Are there any efforts made towards reaching that point?
Yes, I think there are currently efforts to align. And primarily, the first thing that I talk about is our nationally determined contributions, which essentially are a set of commitments or actions that countries take to then say, these are my commitments in terms of, one, addressing my contributions to climate change, so that's reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, as well as adapting to the changing climate. And as I had mentioned, there are commitments to address that for the energy sector, as well as for IPP, the industrial sector as well. So there is, I think, groundwork, but obviously then we need to accelerate that work going forward. You have actors from the built environment as well. You know, the Green Building Council is moving around, you know, mobilizing and putting together the work towards a framework for a sustainable built environment in Botswana. So I think over the next year, going forward, we'll be seeing a lot more of that work, groundwork coming together.
Right, right. Are they, what challenges do exist, you know, on the ground as it relates to financing this particular mandate?
Okay.
I think, first of all, primarily in terms of green finance, generally, you'd recall last year there was a commitment from developed countries to support developing countries like Botswana to address their climate needs and finance their climate plans through the NDCs. And I think the quantum increased from 100 billion to 300 billion last year. And there's different mechanisms coming up to allow you know, countries and implementers to access that kind of finance. And climate plans mo Botswana, I think our last NDCs, the budget for our NDCs gave about 6.5 billion pula. So we need 6.5 billion pula to implement our climate resilience plans for Botswana. And only about 0.9 billion can practically come from our national budget. And so there's a huge gap in financing our climate plans, and that also speaks to infrastructural development and climate resilient infrastructure as well. And so the gap is huge, and so we're hoping to see from the conference as well what the finance sector says. We've seen last year, Absa Bank, well, actually not last year, I think it was the year before. Absa Bank has a green bond on the Botswana Stock Exchange worth millions of pula. FNB announced last year that they had given out about 45 million pula worth of green loans as well. And other banks are moving to package financial instruments to support the green sector. And so we're seeing a lot of work happening internationally to mobilize the financing for the green sector. We're seeing a lot of work locally, right, to position ourselves to access the international funding. But we're also seeing a lot of work happening in the private sector locally to support the work more Botswana, and we're hoping that such financiers will be at the conference to interface with the built environment sector and see how we particularly target such financing for climate resilient infrastructure in Botswana.
Right, right. Just to perhaps just wrap up our conversation today, Ontlametse, just give us a glimpse of some of the important conversations that will be had at or held at this conference.
Yeah. Like we are saying, the most important thing is policies. As Tshepiso mentioned, we are talking of policies. Let's integrate our policies from the built environment. Let's integrate the green practices into our policies.
Right.
We are talking of adaptive spaces, the spaces that we do. Like he mentioned, like we, Olebella in the past couple of weeks, we had floods, infrastructure, a lot of infrastructure was destroyed. Are we ready in terms of this disruption? Our spaces are agile to such disruptions. These are the conversations that we conferencing and the green financing, like I mentioned. Of course, the tree planting, which is the highlight of our event. So, like doing the actual, like practicing the actual green, greening our cities is very important. I think if we had time, he would talk more how the green aspect, even control the temperatures. Yeah, so unfortunately our time is limited.
Right.
So the conference is 1.5 day, where we'll be having the conversation. We'll be having exhibitors from the professional bodies which are supporting the conference. We're talking of BOFMA, Botswana Facilities Management. We're talking of the real estate professional, the planners, the engineers, the architects. They're all on board in this conference. We're talking other sectors, the BOPs, who are currently doing the built environment standards. That's where we talk of policies. We're talking of the BATCs, who are luring investors here. So when investors come to Botswana, so the economic aspect of it, they want to see like a resilient infrastructure. We are in the built environment to provide that.
Right.
So we are going to have such conversation. We are going to discuss even the upcoming Gaborone City Development Plan, which is still as we define our own industrialization. The development plan is how do we incorporate the green aspect? So
Right.
this is how the conference is going to run. It will be on the 9th to 10th April.
Right, right. Okay, that is all the time that we did have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, there we have it. Built Environment Conference coming up. We had the Chief Organizer, Ontlametse Mogofu, and Botswana Climate Change Network Programs Lead, Tshepiso Masilonyane, to give us a bit of insight on what to expect at this conference. And of course, from the 9th to the 10th of April, out in Baisago. Stay tuned for the news at the top of the hour.
At Buang, we dare to dream the impossible, and then we make it happen. Alone, it will be difficult, but with dynamic partners, with strategic collaborators, not even the sky is the limit. This is why we believe in the power of partnerships. This is why we are here today, to affirm a budding partnership between Buang and GIS Plan, to explore all options on leveraging the value of the green economy and of the agriculture and natural resources sectors to create wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, this then explains my unbridled excitement at this collaborative venture between Buang and GIS Plan, together with its Botswana-affiliated businesses, through the Memorandum of Understanding and Memoranda of Agreement that will be signed today. Slowly but surely, our dream of grabbing a piece of the global bioeconomy and a slice of the global agriculture and natural resources market doesn't seem so far-fetched after all. Through the MOU, Buang and GIS Plan will establish a dynamic framework of cooperation between the two institutions and their partners to establish local, regional, and international entities. The MOU will regulate development and implementation of joint activities in Botswana, SADC, and the rest of Africa. But because Jazzplan is a global company, our partnership will give us that global dimension too. Cooperation between the two will include activities like, for instance, academic and business partnerships, staff and student mobility, cooperation, development, and implementation of joint research activities, cooperation in technology and innovation, which will include development of patents, among others, development of joint academic programs at all levels, collaboration in building human, technology, and infrastructure capacities of both partners.
Welcome to beautiful Botswana, where the warmth of her people and wildlife is welcoming, where the vibrancy of her land echoes in the unforgettable voices of her people. Come and see Botswana in her splendor, a place to live, work, and invest. Botswana, our pride, your destination.
Motswana wa etso tla ke go dumedisa ke go amogela mo dikganyeng tsa Botswana Television e le tsa ora ya botlhano mo maitseboeng o tlisedwa ke nna Lucia Ramasu ke na le Liza Sekeng a emi sentle go gona tsa metshameko mo tsere go gang go pele maitseboeng ano seporo sa Mamabula le Phalale se solofetswe go tlhoma lefatshe la Botswana boremelelo jwa dithoto mo borwa jwa Afrika. Mafatshe a Russia le Ukraine a dumalana go emisa ditlhaselo mo mafaratlhatlheng a tsa kgotetso.
Ga mo go tsa metshameko Shihan Bakwadi a tlhongwa mothusa moeteledipele wa mokgatlho wa karate wa mahatshe a selekane.
Motswana se tla ke go dumedisa gape tse ke dikgang tsa Botswana Television tsa nako ya botlhano mo maitseboeng ke Lucia Ramasu. Tautona Advocate Duma Boko o emeletse go etela kwa toropong ya Nakala kwa Mozambique malatsi a mabedi ka tsa tiro go simolola tsatsi leno. Pego e tswang go ofising ya ga Tautona ya re Tautona Boko o tla tshwara dipuisano le molekane wa gagwe wa Mozambique re Daniel Chapo ka dikgang tse di farologaneng go balelwa tirisano mmogo ya mafatshe o mapedi tirisano mo kgaolong ya SADC le makgotla a mafatshe. Pego ya re mafatshe a Botswana le Mozambique a dirisana mo go tsa temothuo tsa itshireletso kgotetso tikologo botsogo ngwao dipalamo le tsa bojanala. Tautona Boko o solofetswe gape go nna le sepaka sa go buisana le Tautona Chapo ka go ka dirisana mo mehameng ya dikitso ditlhaeletsano le tsa boranyane. Pego eo gape ya re mothusa Tautona Renda Bagaolathe o tla nna mo tshwarelela Tautona fa Tautona a le kwa Mozambique. Tautona le lekoko la gagwe ba solofetswe go boela gae ka moso. Faragatela pele mothusa tona ya dipalamo le dikago re ke agile atamelang a re go dirwa ga seporo sa Mamabula le Phalale go tla hegosa gore lefatshe leno le ne boramelelo jwa ditsamai tota jwa go tsamaisa dithoto mo kgaolong ya SADC. Mothusa tona o tlhalositse se kwa phuthegong ya babeeletsi ba tiro eo maabane mono Gaborone. Tiro ya seporo seo e tshwaraganetswe ke khamphani ya Botswana Railways le ya Transnet. Monica Setswaela wa bega.
Maikaelelo a phuthego e ke go netefatsa gore tiro ya seporo sa Mamabula le Phalale e bona babeeletsi gore e kgone go simologa. Kago ya seporo seo sa bolele jwa 120 kilometers e solofetswe go hegosa maitama a puso a go bapala ka ditswammung tsa lefatshe leno jaaka magala le letswai ka go le rekisetsa mebaraka ya Afrika Borwa e tlhoka magala go heta motakase.
Our shared vision is to develop a modern, efficient railway network that will support trade, foster industrialization, create jobs, communities. The Mamabula-Phalale rail link is central to the vision, linking Botswana with South Africa and the broader region, thereby enhancing and strengthening our position as a key logistic hub in Southern Africa.
Dipatlisiso ka kago ya seporo seo di supa ha se diretswe go thotha bokete jwa ditswamong ka go farologana.
The rail sector remains a key driver of industrial growth. When we talk about reliable and sustainable, just to put it into perspective,
Mahama wa seporo e santse e le one o ka thusang go godisa itsholelo ya lefatshe leno ka ebile a ikanyega e kgona go thotha dithoto ka palo e kwa godimo gangwe fela go gaisa diteraka.
the border, it's just borderless, no borders, nothing. So you can see how sustainable and reliable it is.
The realization of revenue from these minerals is to a large extent dependent on adequate logistics.
Go botlhokwa gore re atege mo tirong ya seporo se ka gore go tla thusa gore re kgone go rekisa ditswamong tsa rona kwa mebarakeng ka go farologana. Re ka kgona go boelwa go le gontsi ka ditswamong tse re nang le tsone mo lefatsheng leno.
Because you'll not realize any revenue. This particular meeting today to move forward the Mamabula-Lipalale railway line.
We're doing this to optimize the carrying capacity of the train so that on one trip you are really able to make sure that you absolutely optimize.
Re batla go thusa go imolola diterena morwalo ka kago ya seporo se sešwa se. Re dirile gore terena e tla tsamaya mo seporong seo e nne e ka emelela mo Botswana go ya Afrika Borwa e sa eme gope go itsa madiadia a itemogelang kwa molelwaneng.
It simply departs from Mamabula, picks up its cargo, and runs across all the way to Lepalale without any stopping.
Tiro ya go aga seporo go tswa mo Mamabula mo Botswana go ya kwa Lepalale kwa South Africa e le jwa e le maiteko a matona go thusa go godisa papadi mo kgaolong e. Monica Tshwaela, Botswana Television, Gaborone.
Moemedi wa lefatshe la America mo Botswana re Howard Franken a re itumelela thata tswelelopele le kgolo ya meepo mo lefatsheng leno ka se se baya lefatshe leno mo bontleng jwa go atolosa le go kabakanya itsholelo ya lone merero ya ditlhabololo ga mmogo le go fokotsa letlhoko la ditiro. Re Franken o buile se jaaka na itetsi moepo wa Giyani o tla bong o epa manganese ko motseng wa Kanye ebile o solofetse go hetla ditiro mogang o bulwang. Emmanuel Rapoa Kapego.
Botsalano jwa lefatshe la Amerika le la Botswana botswa kgakala bo remeletse thata mo go tsa meepo, botsogo, tlhabololo ya batho, thuto le tsa itshireletso. Ke ka mo moemedi wa lefatshe la Amerika mono gae a neng a etela moepo wa Giyani Metals mo Kanye go utlwa ka tswelelo pele ya one le gore o tla thusa jang go tlhabolola matshelo a beng gae.
This is the future for Botswana. These kind of responsibly mined sites, in this case for manganese.
Mo ke isago e solofetsang thata mo lefatsheng la Botswana ka khumo ya ditswamong di tshwana le manganese. Tshwaragano ya puso ya lefatshe leno le khamphani ya meepo ya kwa lefatsheng la Canada e a itumedisa ga mmogo le tse di molemo tse di solofetsweng go ungwela beng gae.
In Botswana, they're going to make jobs, they're going to employ people, they're going to bring these important minerals to the market for the world to use.
We met with the ambassador last week and he wanted to appreciate the project, the EV industry and the energy storage industry.
Re kopane le moemedi wa lefatshe la Amerika mono gae me a supa kgatlhego go etela moepo wa manganese. Manganese botlhokwa thata ka e dirisiwa mo malatlheng a dikoloi tse di dirisang motlakase tse lefatshe la Amerika le di akolang.
In terms of manganese, high purity manganese that Giyani is going to produce is a growing component with regards to EV batteries.
Bogogi jwa moepo le jone bo le mo thulaganyong ya gore ditsetlana tsa konokono tsotlhe di lolame go felela ko legatong la gore moepo jaanong o bone babeeletsi gore o bulwe.
So we're taking the project through the value chain and in doing that the community
re tsile go atolosa ditirelo tsa manganese gore beng gae ba boelwe go menagane
material. In addition to that, we're bringing a new skill to the country.
Re sologetse gore letlhoko la ditiro mo kgaolong e tla nna selo sa maloba ebile re sologetse gore le bangwe ba ileng ba goebi ba ba botlana kana ba go ibotlhela ka pharologanyo ba tla akola kana ba tla itatswa menwana mo kganyeng yone jaanong tota hela ga gona mo gontsi ha se go leboga le go ba rotloetsa hela gore ko pele go nne le consultation e maleba bani ba kgone gore ka nako tsotlhe ba ene ba itse gore go diragalang ga go diragaleng.
Go simolola go bereka ga moepo go lejwa go tla tsisa tse di molemo thata mo setšhabeng go tlhabolola matshelo a batho. Emmanuel Rapoa, BTV News, Kanye.
Modulasetilo wa khansele ya Gantsi Reshane ke badile a re ke boikarabelo jwa khansele eo go ema nokeng dikgwebo tsotlhe tse di mo kgaolong eo ka go reka mo go tsone le go di anamisa lefatshe lotlhe. Re ke badile o na bua a itetsi madirelo a khamphani ya Prolec Botswana Mill e dirang phaletšhe ya la Duma. Le se go mokwaisi o na re ko
Prolec Botswana Mill ke khamphani e magorogo masha e mo toropong ya Gantsi e dirang phaletšhe e bidiwang la Duma. E simolotse kgwebo ya bone ngogola mme e bile ba setse ba rekiseditse ditone di le 638 kwa lefatsheng la Democratic Republic of Congo. Go ya ka modulasetilo wa khansele ya Gantsi ke tshwanelo ya puso go ema nokeng khamphani eo ka go reka mo go bone.
I strongly believe that whosoever is given the position to lead a municipal or a district like ours must know or must inform themselves about what
is file maemo a go nna moeteledipele go mo maruleng a go go itse dikgwebo tsotlhe tse di mo kgaolong yotlhe ka bophara. Ga go ntse jalo lo yana o le moeteledipele o ka re nako e go dirwa melawana ya theko le thekiso le wena o nna le sebaka sa go tswa ka melawana e tla thusang go godisa dikgwebo tse di mo kgaolong ya gago le gone go ba rotloetsa go reka mo dikgwebong tseo.
Of law as well as ensure that where policies support us to directly procure certain products, we advise our procuring entities from both the council and the central government that they support such undertakings.
Mogolwana company e ya Prolec Re Quinton Barnes a re lefa gone go setse ba simolotse go isa phaletšhe kwa ntle jana dikgwetlho tsone di teng.
The maize meal market is a very difficult market to enter into because of your known brands. So it is challenging.
La itse gore go setse go na le diphaletšhe tse di setseng di itsege thata mme go bokete go tsena mo kgwebong ka dilo tse di tshwana le phaletšhe mme fela ke itumela ka fa re tsweletseng ka teng ka gore mo sebakeng seno selekanyo sa 60% sa phaletšhe ya rona se tsewa ke lefatshe la DRC.
Probably about 60% of our business is to the export market in the DRC.
Because when I look amongst your employees, I found one of those who are coming from my wards. So it's
ha ke le ba babereki ba ke bona ba bangwe ba bone e le ba ba tswang go kgaolong e ke emetseng. Ke itumelela seo fela thata le gone gore o kgonne go tlhama ditiro e bile babereki ba gago ke bana ba mo gae fela.
Our aims or the mandate as the UDC, a way of creating jobs. And I wish this plant could grow and employ more people.
Rest assure you that we are here to assist you.
O soletse gore re jaaka re le fa re le council re tla tswella re go enonokeng gore kgobo e bone kgolo.
Reaching out to the market, so that's what we have to assure you.
E re ka go supaetsa gona tlhelo ntse ya go dira phaletšhe e balemi ba gakolotse go tlhoafalla go inakanya le go lema mmidi ka dipalo go tla go rekisa fa le se go mokwaisi BTV News Gantsi.
Modulasetilo wa khansele ya Boteti Re Nkhuparetsi Monatsi o kopile setšhaba le bana le seabe go nna pelotelele jaaka khansele eo e le mo letsholong la go batla madi a go isa ditlamelo kwa bathong. Re Monatsi o buile seo a buisa phuthego ya khansele ya Boteti e tsweletseng kwa letlhakane se ba itseng tebogo wa latela.
Ha rolela khansele pego ya gagwe modulasetilo wa khansele ya Boteti a re mo nakong eno ba saletse kwa morago go isa ditamelo jaaka go tamela bathoki le go duela ba ba neelang khansele ditirelo. Ka jalo Re Monatsi a re khansele e mo thulaganyong ya go rarabolola seemo seo.
We are behind in payment of a number of suppliers.
Re saletse kwa morago mo go dueleng dikhamphane tse re ne re di thapile gore ha ditirelo ga mmogo le ba re ba tamelang. Ke rata go le tlhalosetsa gore khansele e tshwaragantse le lephata la dikgaolo le tsa ngwao go baakanya seemo seo. Ka jalo ke le gwetha gore le nne pelotelele jaaka re ikaelela go rarabolola kgang eo ka ebile re tsena mo ngwageng o mošwa wa madi.
So that we are gearing forward a new financial year.
Taelo ya madi mo khansele e ka tshwara 93 million pula e tshwenya makhanselara ka ya matshelo a batho.
District kana council, it has been struggling.
thata ka kganya ya madi mo e leng gore gompieko yana ne re tshwanela ke gore gongwe go nne le sengwe se e leng gore o se re baya pele e le di-strategy tsa gore tota ko bohelong jwa letsatsi district ya go dira madi ka tsela e ntseng jang
a me gone yaka clinic yaka e na le itlota di sena di-ambulance yana a me council ta kgona go reka di-ambulance a gampieno council ta kgona gore dingaka di kgona go tsa mo boteti di-32 tse di kgaolo ka dikgaolo ka bontsi yana o tsa Botswana kgaolo ya Mokubilo ga ena ngaka sa le ngaka tsa minutes 2 years back ke engwe dio tse di tshwanetse re bone gore a mme gone tota are we going to be ready tota go bona gore a re tsa ditleliniki tse le bothata jo bontsi bo le teng a mme gone bo tla tswelela bo a kwa pele
re Monatsie a re khansele e taloga maano a go itirela madi go lwantsha thaelo ya madi ga mmogo le go tshwaragana le dikhamphani tse di ikemetseng go thusa go thabolola kgaolo. Sebetseng Tebogo, Botswana Television, Letlhakane.
Councillor Chobe e tla dirisa madi a 40 million pula a ya betsweng mo ngwageng wa madi wa 2025-2026 go feleletsa ditiro tse ba neng ba di simolotse. Ditiro tseo di akaretsa tsa go dikokelong, dikolo le dikgotla tse di neng di setse di amogetswe go dira go le pele. Seo se builwe ke modulasetilo wa komiti ya madi mo khanseleng ya Chobe re Phesi Kasale kwa phuthegong e hapegileng ya khansele eo ka labobedi. Ke a leboga Yole ka pego.
Khansele ya re 40 million pula o ga se wa dithabololo tse diša mme ke ba go ta go feleletsa ditiro tse di saletseng ko morago pele ga lenaneo la nakwana la Transitional National Development Plan le wela kgwedi ya Phukwi e ya fifing.
Chobe district re neetswe 40 million and that 40 million almost the same as the budget ya last year. Go na le 15 million o tanka clinic ya ko Kazungula. We've been given around 2.8 million for expansion at Khot. Re neetswe 400,000 only go dira mo teng backlog eradication ya di facilities tsa di primary schools. Maintenance one we were given around 70,000 only, and that is what we were given the previous financial year.
Le fa go ntse jalo madi a ditirelo tsa tsatsi le letsatsi kgotsa revenue support grant go bolelwa fa o ketsegile ka 12% fa go tshwantsha ngwala ngogola.
This reflects an increase of 12%